everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the Marshfield Danville US Route 2 Roadway Rehabilitation and Paving Project. Just a couple housekeeping items. For those of you joining online, everyone will be muted, and during the question and answer session, we'll be able to unmute you. At the bottom of your screen, if you're joining online, there'll be a button to raise your hand and a Q&A box. So throughout the meeting, you can ask questions, or at the end of the meeting, you can just simply raise your hand. If you're joining by the phone, you can press 9, and that will show us that you're raising your hand, and we can call on you. And then for those of you joining in person, just simply at the end of the meeting, save your questions and we'll address them. So to start off, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information on what to expect today. We're going to be doing some introductions, talking about the meeting objectives, the project location, some background of the project location and history of past projects, the scope of work and the anticipated project timeline, and construction sequencing. So hi, my name is Leah Kostick. I'm a public information consultant, and I'm joined by Delia Maheta, another public information consultant. I serve as the main point of contact for the public, so all of your questions, all of your inquiries can go right to me. I'll have my contact information at the end of the presentation. I'm also joined from the Vermont Agency of Transportation, Brendan Kipp, the project manager, and Kevin McClure, the resident engineer. From the design team, we have Dale Gozalkowski. And for the contractor, we have Joey Starr with Jay Hutchinson. So I'm going to turn it over to Brendan.
Thank you, Leah. All right, so I'm Brandon Kipp. I'm a project manager in the pavement design section, which is part of highway safety and design with VTrans. I'm directly responsible for paving projects all over the state. In this one. In this first slide, I just wanted to tell everybody why we're here and just kind of lay out the groundwork of the presentation. We just wanted to provide a better understanding of what the scope of work is, describe the project timeline, really identify the most impact to the public throughout the corridor, and just introduce you to WSP, which is Delia and Leah, who are working with Kevin McClure as the public relation consultant. So the project begins over by the maple fields at the Plainfield Marshfield town lines. Just a screenshot, Google Earth image of where the project begins at the very top of the screen. The bottom of the screen is looking west at the very end of the project in West Danville. Kind of by the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail crossing, and kind of west of like the storefront area. This is just more along the lines of describing of where the project is located. It's 6.2 miles, 16.2 miles in length. At the bottom of the screen, like I said, this is the Plainfield Marshfield town line. And then up here is kind of over by the Route 15, Route 2 intersection in West Danville. It's a $25 million paving project on US Route 2. And the plan is to wrap up construction in the middle of the 2025 construction season. In order to really explain what we're doing, I thought it would be essential to kind of go back in time and kind of tell everybody a little bit what happened to US Route 2 in history. And I thought it would make sense to kind of talk about the most recent reconstruction projects, because that kind of tells the tale of what we're doing out there treatment-wise with this paving project. I think most of the audience is probably familiar with Contract 1, 2, and 3. Those are large linear reconstruction projects in Marshfield and Cabot Danville. One of them was constructed in 2013 over by the reservoir. One of them was constructed in 2017 over by the Goodrich Maple Farm. And then one is planned for 2027 as of right now. And these are full depth reconstruction projects that go all the way down to replacing the sub base. It's $5 million a mile. permitting right away. Usually reconstruction involves digging down 5 feet in depth, frost protection. So these are major construction projects that have been around a long time. I'm sure most of you are aware. And then kind of go even further back in time. There was a few projects that were built or programmed in the 1970s and were built in the 1980s. There's a segment here as you get out of Marshfield Village. You can kind of tell these segments because they kind of open up into these really wide, big truck lanes. These are conventional sub bases, similar to what you're going to see with the ones in blue. 1981, we just paved this segment this past summer. Same thing, conventional sub base reconstruction back in 1981. That segment sort of got neglected over the years. I'm sure you're aware of it. That's why they went out and paved it. The district maintenance forces went out and did a 3/4 inch shim or something along those lines to give it more life. And then 1986, this is over by I think Cabot, is it the Cabot Road, Cabot Town Road or something like that. It goes, like I said, it kind of goes into those wide truck lanes, conventional construction. So these are kind of like, for the most part, the conventionally constructed road beds all throughout the entire corridor. And then we go to this 1930s typical sections, and I'm sure everyone here is aware of it. Pretty much this first 7 point something miles in Marshfield, you can tell just by the way the road looks. They just use whatever they could find along the riverbed, unconventional gravel, kind of morphed over time, not engineered in any way. Same with this segment up here over by the Danville, over by the camps. You can just tell there's weak subgrades there, and we're still plagued to it to this day. You kind of see how the road heaves, water issues. So yeah, I just thought this was important to explain because it helps tell what we're doing with this paving project, because it's a variety of different treatments. So I just wanted to direct everybody's attention to this color scheme here, and I want to walk everyone down the different treatments. So the first one in red is the most intrusive treatment that we have in our paving program in general. It's pavement reclaim. And I'll explain that after this slide. And then the orange is like a deeper mill and fill consisting of 4 inches of milling, followed by an intermediate course is what we call it, and then a top course, which is that 1.5 inches here. And then a little bit less invasive is a mill and fill of 2 inches. That's pretty typical. And then we're doing an overlay, and then there's one segment over by the Goodrich Maple Farm area where we're not going to do anything at all. All we're going to do is just pavement markings because we just constructed it not that long ago. The road hasn't matured enough to the point where we have to do anything there, but it was still part of this project, so we had to do something, and I just figured, why not just freshen up the markings? It's pretty inexpensive. So now this is the same map we've been looking at. It's just walking everyone through where the most invasive treatments are going to be. So the first segment, that diamond with number 1 there, it's 6.3 miles. It begins at the Plainfield Marshfield town line, and then it ends on the western part of Marshfield. Again, this is the 1930s sub bases that we were talking about earlier that have been a problem for a long time. That's why we're back, and we're going to reclaim it. And then walking through. This is that neglected segment from, I think, 1981, right after the dam that we just overlaid with a 3/4 of an inch, skim course. We're planning to reclaim that as well because it's just been, neglected for a long time, since the 80s. So it's time to kind of reset the sub base there. This is another segment right after the Cabot Hill Road, Danville Hill Road. Again, kind of left in shambles, conventional sub bases, but it's been left to deteriorate for such a long time that the only thing we can do now is reclaim. And then we have the segment up here over by the camps, which is also that 1930s era sub base. So let me talk to everybody about what pavement reclaim is. It's basically the best treatment that we have in our toolbox to address a road that has been really neglected over time, or have really weak subbases. Whenever we get into reconstruction, it triggers permits right away and long planning processes. This is the best thing that we can do without having to go through years of permitting. And it just resets all the distresses. It's usually about $1.5 million, $1.5 million a mile, usually is what we're seeing to do this type of treatment. So it's a pretty evasive, it's a big dollar amount on a cost per mile basis. And then looking down here at the bottom, this is just telling everybody what the steps are of the process. So the first step, these are the red segments. The first step is to mill off a portion of the road, of the existing road. The second step is to pulverize it. They take a big, almost like a rototiller, and completely pulverize the road after they mill it. And then the third step is they add brand new gravel and provide brand new cross slope. Everything is surveyed in 3D. Everything's designed in 3D. So they're providing brand new cross slope. It improves the rideability, and then they add new gravel, regrade it to that three-dimensional surface, and then they repeat step 2, but only with the stabilizer. So sometimes they use calcium, sometimes we use cement, sometimes we use emulsion, and that gives the roadbed more strength. We don't have the ability to go down 3 feet like a conventional reconstruction project. So what we do is we stabilize that, 8 inches that we can pulverize with a stabilizer. Just gives the roadbed more strength. And then lastly, we install a brand new full pavement structure, which usually involves 6 to 8 inches of pavement. And the picture that you see right here, this is probably right after adding the new gravel and regrading step. So for a portion of time in those red segments, this is probably going to be the worst that you'll see along that road. Driving on gravel for one to 3 miles probably, slow moving traffic, dust, gravel everywhere. This is probably the worst you're probably going to see along those red segments for a portion of time. And then just a step down on the treatments, like I said earlier, like the orange was the 4-inch deep mill and fill. You can make the argument that this could probably be reclaimed similar to this bottom segment, but in a village setting, you really can't reclaim a road in a village setting. There's too many obstacles. You're dealing with drop inlets, you're dealing with drainage, you're dealing with curb. It's just not a very good environment to be, usually you want to lift the graded road with a reclaim. You can't do that in a village setting. So the best thing that we could do in the village was just to give it a deeper mill and fill. So that's what we're doing there. And then to step it down to even less treatment. So we're going to do a mill and fill of that 2027 planned reconstruction project up here. And the reason for that is we don't know when that thing is going to get built. We don't know if it's going to get built in 27. We don't know if it's going to get built in 2030. All we know is it's bad and it needs a little bit more life, and we don't want to lift the grade. So let's just mill and fill it, give it a little bit of time for that 2027 project, contract 3 to happen. And then this little guy up here, this is where the storefronts are over by Route 15. That's purely environment driven. I also think there was a project that happened in the 70s there. So I think there is some realignment work and some conventional subbases. So that's the reason why we're mill and filling the area of where the park and ride is. And then the overlay segment, this is that segment that was built in 2013. It's a pretty new segment. There's not quite enough rutting out there or deterioration to mill it. But we had to do something because we had a project, so we just figured let's just give it an overlay. It really probably warrants a thinner treatment, but the overlay fits better with this bigger contract. And then lastly, this white segment up here, this is where we're just going to do the pavement markings over by the Goodrich Farm, which was the contract 2 that was built in 2017. And then I also want to touch on this. Usually with paving, it's definitely evolved with time, but we don't just do paving. We usually get sort of, we touch a lot of different resources. We address, guardrail, under drain, small culverts, signs, lines, rumble strips, access management, safety concerns. Sometimes we can't do everything. We do the best we can. We try to do everything within the right of way, and it doesn't trigger permits. But we do the best we can within the bounds of our paving job, with the scope of work, and we don't have 5 or 10 years of planning. We're on a pretty fast track. But we do the best we can to incorporate other scope items. And this is just one example of an additional scope item in a safety enhancement. This is the intersection of Cabot Road in Marshfield. So I think most people are aware it's in a Y format, and what you see in blue and yellow is the graphics from the plans being overlaid on Google Earth. So you can kind of see that we're going to remove this little island here, and basically tee up the intersection. A lot of these intersections, there's a lot of these you see in Vermont where they're kind of in a Y format. I think they were built back in the horse and buggy days, and they made sense then. They don't make sense now, and they pose a lot of confusion. They bring a lot of confusion and safety issues. So it wasn't easy to put this in our project, but we're able to make it work, and that's just one thing that we're adding to our project. And here's another graphic that just kind of shows what we're doing there. Just kind of gives you a better visual instead of a wireframe. And then here's another area in West Danville. Before I talk about this area, I also wanted to say the town of Danville wanted the speed limit changed from a 45/35 down to a 40 and 30, and that's a separate process. It's not part of the project, but that got approved. And this area used to be a 35 zone, but now it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone. And the zone kind of leading up into it used to be 45. Now it's a 40. And then this zone over here, they also added another 40-mile-an-hour zone leading up into the village area. So I kind of wanted to bring everyone up to speed on that regard. And then there's also some speed playback signs, those signs that light up and tell you your speed when you're going into a village. V-Trans doesn't maintain those signs. That's done through like a Section 1111 permit process. All I know at this point, I think Danville submitted something. I think it's in the permitting process, but that's separate from the project. But I just wanted to mention those two items, like when I want to go through this. So this area here, I think it was included in a Better Connections grant or something to the Regional Planning Commission, or something like that. We were asked to look at that report that was written by the RPC and try to incorporate anything we could within the bounds of our paving project. So I think the issue with this was there was concerns about access management. We don't like to see a whole bunch of pavement out there, uncontrolled access. They wanted more. There's some weird looking delineators here. They wanted better pedestrian mobility. There's another issue where traffic kind of blows through this area right here. They wanted better flow through the parking area. Right now, I don't think it's striped very well. So we looked at that report and we did what we could to incorporate what was in that study. So this slide is just like, again, the graphics from the plans overlaid on Google Earth. They don't line up exactly, but it kind of shows everybody what we're intending to do there. This little jelly bean island here is just going to stay where it's at. We've added an island here to prevent people from blowing through the intersection. We're going to pave this area, add some more parking, force people to do a controlled access into this area here. We've put in some more access management. We're widening the park and ride. Hopefully it'll improve the mobility. I think there was an issue in this little area here just people blowing through some delineators, but I think we're going to remove some pavement there and make that more definitive, so people don't just blow through that one area on the edge of the park and ride. So just some examples of what we try to do in the design process with a paving project. And so I'm going to let Kevin kind of speak to this a little bit here, but just to touch on it real briefly, the 2023 plan is to address that first 6.3 miles in Marshfield from the Marshfield-Plainfield town line to the western part of Marshfield Village, and to address the under drain, guardrail, and kind of the ancillary work on that one segment, and to pave up to the intermediate course, which is like just below the top layer of pavement. So with that, I'll probably let Kevin, do you want to talk to do the other thing? Do you want me to run through the...
You can run through them.
Yeah, I'll let Kevin kind of fill in if I miss anything here. And, some of the stuff can change a little bit over time. The contractor has different resources, and, they might have other jobs going on. The weather might change. So the stuff in 2024 and 25 is not entirely set in stone, but the 2024 season will be more dedicated towards putting the top surface of pavement on that first 6.3 miles, doing all the mill and fill work in the Marshfield Village. That was that deep mill and fill. Jumping ahead to the West Danville park and ride area. And then the 2025 season would be to overlay and mill and fill sections in Marshfield and West Danville and all the rest of the final paving in Marshfield and Danville. So, did I miss anything there?
Just the only thing to add is during the 2024 season, the other red sections, the reclaimed sections, they will be in 2024. So the area, where the truck lane is coming, number 2, that will be reclaimed, and then by Danville Hill past Goodrich's, that will be reclaimed. And then the section by the pond, it's a combination. We're not going to reclaim that twice. What we're going to do is we're going to remove 4 inches of pavement, and then there was a lot of concern about elevation of the roadway to a lot of the camp driveways. So design has actually lowered the road elevation through there. So after we take the pavement off, we're going to excavate a foot of gravel, or a foot of the existing road bed out, and we're going to replace it with a foot of gravel. Then we're going to stabilize it with the emulsion, and then we'll pave over it. So don't hold me to it if you live on the road, but generally that 4,000 foot stretch along the pond where the camp accesses are, the road will be 2 to 3 inches lower than it is now. And we just finished up last Friday installing all the under drains. So that's all the work you're going to see in the Joe's Pond area for 2023. It'll be the spring of 24 before any activity happens there. And like Brandon said, they will do the curbing and the concrete work in the park and ride in 2024. And that will be paved to seal everything up for the winter, and then the final course of pavement will happen in 2025. It allows the contractor to set back into Marshfield and pave continuously with that last 1.5 inches to Danville. It's just going to provide a better ride, and when you do things in pieces, as anybody can imagine, it's just not. You're not going to get the best product out of it. So we haven't directed that. We have some completion dates, but the contractor has built their schedule, so that's a lot of where our information has came from. We have some construction dates, by November 1st, it needs to be paid between Marshfield and Plainfield. By next October, all the top has to be on through Marshfield Village. And then after that, they have a completion date of July 1, 2025. So I guess that's all.
I think that's the last slide. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Great. So Again, my name is Leah Kostick. If you guys have any questions throughout construction, this is my email, this is my phone number. Feel free to take a picture of it. The information, my contact information is also on the fact sheet for this project. That's the link right there. The QR code you can scan and it will take you to a link where you can put your email to sign up for the construction updates, which have the week ahead of anticipated construction and any anticipated impacts. Yeah, and with that, we can move to the question and answer portion. Oh, also, I also have printed out papers that have the QR code there. So if you want to scan that. Also, if people online want to put their email in, or we can send the link in there so people can sign up to receive project updates as well. So we can start with questions from the room or online. Yes?
Is there any plans to pave or do anything to the road between West Danville and Danville? That road's kind of coming apart.
Yeah, there is. I actually have a project in my hands right now. In the beginning stages of development, we're going to do some geotechnical work this year and next year. I can't remember off the top of my head what year it's planned for, but it's like 2025 or 26 or something. They have it on the books for. But yeah, it is programmed currently as a project.
I'll go. I'll start. So a couple years ago, I started advocating for reducing the speed limit through West Danville because we live across the way and we have to walk across to get our mail. And there's 3 different crossings there between the 2 trails and the pedestrian crossing and people flying through there. So we were successful in getting that reduced, although I haven't seen too much difference in the speed really. But I've also been advocating for the flashing signs, which there is no permit yet for those. They've been holding off and told by the select board to hold off because V-Trans had said, when we do this paving, we're going to put in some calming devices. You may not need these speed signs. I didn't see any real calming devices that look like they're to slow traffic down coming through there. So, just question
Yeah.
if there's anything,
Yeah,
we do about that.
Yeah, we weren't planning to do calming devices. I think that's a tough one. Are you? I know there's some calming devices that they have in Danville right here.
And that's what I assumed they were going to do because he said, we did it in Danville and rest assured when we're done, it'll be, traffic will be slower through there, but it looks like they're still going to shoot through.
Yeah.
You can see where you're avoiding them crossing into Route 15 through there, cut through there.
Yeah, right.
That's, but coming the other way, they're going to be shooting through there. So.
Yeah. Are you more specifically? Where would you put the calming device if you were to put
They
one?
suggested that. It wasn't me. I was waiting to see. I was, well, let's see what you're putting in. So I'm still going back to the speeds, the flashing radar signs to help slow traffic down. But like I said, the select board had mentioned, well, let's wait and see what they're going to do because they said they're going to put calming devices in. We won't need to spend the money on the speed signs. But obviously I'll continue to push for that. I've tried for 2 years and I'm not going to give up.
Yeah, I can't speak to the traffic safety folks with the signs and like the people who are more intimate with the signs and lines and the things, but with the traffic calming devices, I think are a hard one for me to put in a paving job in general. I think I know they put them here in the reconstruction project. I think that was maybe a different animal. I think, but. I think our maintenance folks, they don't want anything raised in the middle of the pavement. I think we're for putting in islands and things like that, and enhancing the signs. But as far as putting imprinted raised pavement, I think that's a hard one for us to do with the paving program. We've never put one in. It's always been through like a major reconstruction project, like you saw right here, right in town. So I hope the speed reduction sort of helps with time, and I hope the speed back playback signs will help too.
Yeah, I think those might, I noticed when you come into Danville, they seem, like, a lot of people will hit the brakes when they see that, but it's getting that passed. It's taken, like I said, a couple of years to pushing, so with this information, then I'll come back to the select board and say
Okay.
if we need those.
Is there any inherent prohibition to being able, if the permit was issued to put the sign in and it was, say, in 2024, and you still yet had the top coating to do on that last year, is there anything that would prohibit the installation of a permitted speed reduction sign during this construction window from 23 to 25?
Oh, I don't think so. You're saying it, during our active construction project, would that be like would that blockade your ability to put up a speed back sign? I don't think so. I don't think so.
Because apparently it takes a year or so to get a permit, so I'm told, and stuff, so I don't wait till 2025 now.
Right.
And wait another year to put it through, and then, so I want to get it going now so that it's done
Right.
within a year.
Yeah, I don't think that would alter.
I don't either, meaning it's off the paved surface. Usually they're hardwired into the closest utility because they have a power source. There is some solar, but they're hardwired into, and then the town of Danville would just pay the electric bill for the service of that system. But I don't see where there'd be and Jay Hutchins is not gonna say, well, you can't work in our sandbox, so there could be. Yeah, I don't think it'd be one of those, if the town moves forward and receives that permit 111 or whatever it is, I don't have a problem on our end.
Yeah, I don't think there would be a problem at all.
Thank you.
Has there been a discussion about like law enforcement or anybody patrolling that area every once in a while?
They usually, what, through June?
Once in a while, they
Memorial
are.
Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm from Lindenville, and everybody used to fear driving through Danville because of the sheriff, but they're non-existent anymore as far as I'm concerned. And it's not part of this conversation, but it's just there's, but I know it's hard scheduling law enforcement. We've noticed that just in our business, because we use UTOs a lot just for traffic control, and it used to be you could easily get one, but I don't know how the town's contracts are for providing service throughout it, and obviously state police are spread thin, so, but
Yeah, there used
back
be a-
to what used to go on here, just having that white cruiser in town scared everybody.
Yeah.
It
There used
did
to be
mean-
a resident that would actually give money to
Oh, I see.
to get somebody to sit
I
there.
see.
But, I have to pay extra for that, but, and they do occasionally sit in the parking lot. Problem
Right.
is, everybody can see them sitting there, so they
Right.
slow down. I mean, it keeps them from slowing, they slow down then, but
Right.
it does help, and they caught, kind of several people. So.
And I've worked on a lot of state routes, and I'm the one that was the engineer on the Goodrich project, the Cabot Danville section there. And I will attest that
They go flying.
out of most of the roads that I've worked on in the state of Vermont, people clip along Route 2 faster than any other state highway. They just do.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, I interrupted
I
Hannah.
was going to say, as a driver, I find those flashing light things effective. I wonder if you all have any information about the comparative effectiveness of what they're proposing, which I think is effective compared to, managing with islands and so forth.
Right, I've found that too, that it's human instinct when something's flashing at you to bring it to your attention. And like someone mentioned, people lift off that accelerator.
It's like that blue, right? It's a blue light too, right?
I'm not sure the sequence they use, but white usually, but it does get your attention, because a lot of times you can imagine, you have other things on your mind, you're trying to get to the store, and then, oh, I'm going too fast.
Yeah.
So it,
Just don't realize
Speed
you're
limit right forward of the
43 in a
flash.
30 mile an hour zone.
Right.
You see it, and you're like, oh gosh, I'm going 43.
Of course, everybody else can see it.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If you don't do permanent pavement for a raised, not an island, but as in a speed counting device, could you do temporary ones in certain summer hours? Would that be considered to put in your project?
Temporary.
Yeah, they're like rubber, refurbished,
Speed bumps.
reclaimed, speed bumps. Yeah, basically they're speed bumps, but they go down and then you get to lift them and put them, take them away.
Yeah, I've seen those before. in like municipalities, like class 1 town highways,
Right.
where the village actually owns the highway, but I've never seen them on the state system.
Yeah.
Um,
Because where the area that they're looking to have done, that would be a good suggestion to put up there if you guys could do it on the state
mhm.
before you get to the Joe's Pond area on both sides.
You're talking about like almost like temporary speed bumps.
Yeah,
that they
basically.
throw out there.
Yep.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, I've never seen them on the state system. It'd be something new I've never seen. I mean, I would have to kind of like inch through the bureaucracy to see how that would kind of fly. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not. I mean, I don't know. I'm not really seeing that
Yeah.
being included with our project, but it's a good idea. I don't know the official response to that from V-Transit's point of view. I'm wondering if it has to do with either maintenance or if it defects the pavement. There must be a variety of reasons that I can't think of right now off the top of my head.
Because technically, since you plow it, you would know when to put them down and you would know when to remove them.
Right,
So it's not like a
Right.
separate contractor would be doing it, you would have the control of that.
right.
So that would be a suggestion.
I mean, it's a matter of time. There's those two crossings, trail crossings, they're both blind. You know, coming this way, there's a turn, trucks are coming down there, and people, and it's kind of a little ridge too, and people are coming across on their bikes or whatever. Then you've got the pedestrian, and then this one, you're coming up the hill, and it's right there, the crossing.
Mm-hmm.
And so both of them are like, really, it's a matter of time before something's gonna tragic happen there, I think.
Any question about
In Marshfield Village, I didn't see on your schedule when the intersection is going to get redone.
That will be the early part of 2024.
Okay, early 2024. And you mentioned that obviously in the more extensive reconstruction areas, you'll be doing a lot of drainage work and stuff. I recognize that the village is tougher, but you will be addressing some drainage in the village, or strictly between the white lines?
No,
paving?
we will be rehabbing all the drainage structures, adjusting those elevations to the new grade of the road. We recognize now there's a lot of drainage structures through Marshfield that don't pick up a lot of water.
Correct. Yeah.
So that water's having to travel a distance that is not intended to go into another structure.
Right.
So some of that has to do with wheel rutting, and the truck traffic is actually lowering the grade. Once we get that new surface and we adjust the elevation of those drainage structures, it should be a lot better through there.
Great. And that work, again, sorry, that was 2024.
Correct.
You're going through with the whole thing in Marshfield.
Correct.
And particular area of concern for us is the intersection of School Street and Route 2 as far as that drainage is concerned. But we're in Marshfield also looking to pave School Street. And so we'll have an intersection and overlap there. We, the select board in Marshfield, we're wondering if we do end up hiring Hutchins, we have a quote from Hutchins and from Pike. If we hire Hutchins to do the paving on School Street, is there any benefit to piggybacking with your project, or any problem with, timing as far as the seams are concerned at that intersection?
No, I don't see any concern. Part of our contract is, I have to look at the plans of School Street specifically, but our project, generally, we are paving side roads back 25 feet with an apron.
Great.
So whatever time frame, if you pave it now and it meets the existing grade, we will be back in there to cover up that first 25 feet.
Gotcha.
So we will mill.
So you'd end up milling that
We may mill your
5 feet also?
new paved road to meet the grade of the new Route 2.
Well, we'd like to, I'm assuming that there's some cost benefit maybe to having some overlap there. And rumor that there's possibility of piggybacking, they called it, onto a state contract as far as the pavement purchase is concerned. Is that
I'm not
possible?
aware of that.
No.
You mean like the same price that we pay?
Well, like, yeah, and then we would pay you instead of paying the contractor if we added, you know.
I'm not aware of that. I don't know if Rain has been involved in it before.
I've done that in the past on other elements. Like we had a project in Bristol, and we were paving through their class 1, and they were doing a sidewalk project,
Mhm.
and we consolidated their work and we put it under non-participating. So we got a bid, and the town was happy with the unit bid prices for the sidewalk, and then we essentially just charged the town for that unit bid price for that particular item for the sidewalk. But I think in this case, there isn't a separate project currently for Marshfield, and I think we're too far ahead because we've already gone through the bidding process. So I don't think we can't go back and rebid it and put that item as non-participating at this point, and have it under one umbrella.
I see.
I think it would have to be separate.
Yeah, okay. And I guess that covers it. So as far as the intersection goes, the timing is not terribly critical with our paving project there on School Street.
Right. Something that you'll be completing after the water project is complete?
Yes, we're pretty much off of the School Street section with the water project. That's on the other side of the road there and going down, towards Creamery, opposite side.
Right, I see where they're set up.
Yeah, so we won't have overlap on School Street
Okay.
with that water project. We had some repairs there, so we've got a kind of a mess right there at that intersection. We were trying to get an idea of timing wise, we need to, get
Okay.
something done and get it cleaned up.
Okay.
But all
And-
sounds good.
Just to give you some information, I was just recently looking at it. The elevation or grade through Marshfield
Mhm.
will be almost the same as it is now.
Great.
So what I'm saying is, if you were to tie in your School Street, it's not gonna be a big deal for us to match in. Like if the road was gonna be raised quite a bit,
Yep,
so feel free to tie into the existing Route 2 if you do it this summer.
okay,
And then our work, when we take out 4 inches, we're putting 4 inches back. And then that last 25 feet, we're gonna pave down into School Street and match in and make that access onto Route 2.
great. So we've kind of got that 25-foot window to work in there anyway. As far
Right.
as your seam goes, you'll have a good
Right.
overlap.
And it might be a little bit longer. Sometimes intersections, especially the ones that go downhill,
Right.
sometimes we go a little bit further down because it takes longer than 25 feet to blend that in.
So, yeah. All right, thank you.
And I believe we have a question online.
Yes, Carla Payne is online, and Carla, you are able to unmute now, if you'd like to ask a question.
Can you,
Yes.
Yes. okay. Two questions. One has to do with the placement of the rumble strips. Will they avoid my house at 1554 in East Cabot?
Did you say 54, 1554?
1554.
I would have to look at the plans to verify, but just for a general rule of thumb for rumble strips, we're looking at 50-mile-an-hour zones or more, and you have to have a certain amount of traffic. And there's other criteria that sometimes we don't put them in at all. So I think I would have to just probably get back to you, Carla, more specifically, and look at the plans. I can email you or call you tomorrow after I've found out where that was along the project corridor.
Yes.
It's right across from Mac Mount
The other
Road.
question has to do with the intersection of my driveway with the highway. Do I understand from what you've been saying that there won't be a new dip where the highway and the driveway meet?
Are you referring to how your driveway ties in to the new roadway?
Yes.
Yeah, again, I think it might make sense to see where you're located along the corridor and see what treatment the main line surface on US 2 is going to have before I can elaborate too much on that. I'll be happy to call you tomorrow and look at that a little bit further. If it's in a mill and fill zone or an overlay zone, it's either going to be a 0 increase in elevation or an 1.5 inch increase in elevation. If it's in a reclaim zone, then sometimes we got to go back a little bit further to transition your driveway, so it's more smoother because we're dealing with more gravel and more elevation changes. But I think, why don't I get your address and your number or your phone number, and I can look at the plans more clearly and call you right back or email, whatever's good for you.
Okay, thank you.
Carla, you can add your contact information in the Q&A box and send it over. It will not be public, but we can receive it and follow up with you.
Did you hear that, Carla?
No.
You can put your contact information in the Q&A box, and we'll follow up with you, and it won't be public.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. We had one other question online before we move over. This was sent in anonymously, but what kind of access to 215 will there be during the construction period? And will Cabot residents need to go up through East Montpelier to get to Plainfield Montpelier area?
I can handle this one. There will be no detour. There will be daily traffic control through the area. The contractor will be building it in segments that will allow one-way traffic off Route 2 onto 215 or vice versa. There will be some inconvenience driving on a gravel surface until it's paved, but we won't be blocking that intersection throughout the day, and at night it will be opened back up to a fully functional two-way system. And we expect the contractor to do the work fairly quickly in there, meaning they don't want to linger there. They will excavate, place their new material, pave the first lift of pavement. Yes, it won't be there like all summer.
The person said thank you.
In the front, yeah.
Hi. I see driving from Plainfield to Marshfield on the north side of 2, there's cutting back some of the ledge. I just wonder if I've been passing those rocks for 50 years. I just wonder if the new clearance requirements, maybe of these days as compared to 1930?
Yeah, that's true. Some of our cross sections show laying back that ledge to what they call a 4-on-1. So every foot going over is 4 feet up. So that's what you're seeing. Some of the other locations, like they removed today, it was more me hand selecting rocks, trying to open up that clear zone. I had some complaints from the district garage out of Montpelier about slapping their wing off that. So I communicated with their foreman, and so we marked some additional rocks. We understand that we can't get too aggressive in that area because a lot of those large boulders are holding back that slope, meaning roots are growing, trees are growing on those rocks. We took out today what we felt comfortable taking out. That is going to provide a little bit more ditch volume for us, and it's going to be a safer condition. We're not going to be able to make it like Brandon said, a reconstruction project where we could excavate and engineer a clear zone. But we're doing our best to do
It makes
that.
entire sense to me.
Okay.
And the man with the jackhammer on the end of his excavator arm is an artist.
Okay, yeah, he is a good operator.
And the back.
How much will you be, the road markings or their survey markings are out pretty wide on that western end of Marshfield from, Maple Fields up to the village. And so we've had some questions about how much, if any, the road is going to be widened.
Okay, I can see where there'd be some concern with that. What those people are seeing, those are grade stakes with the orange ribbons on them. Those are control stakes for us most of those stakes are at our 25-foot right-of-way, and those are offset stakes for the center line.
Gotcha.
So the majority of the corridor, the center line will be in its same location. There's a few corners that they straighten out a little bit, but overall the footprint will be the same, and we're really not widening that much. So those stakes is not the new center line of the road. They're not the new width of the road. They are just offset stakes out of the work area that allow the contractor and my inspection staff to localize themselves and know where the middle of the road is.
Sure.
So,
that makes sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that was clear.
Are there gonna be any new stoplights between?
I mean, actual traffic control signals and stop. You mean red, green, blue? No.
I was impressed with the traffic on Route 15 coming into Route 2 in West Danville. There's a lot of traffic on 15.
Right.
Yeah, I know there's been
Brandon.
there's been some talk about the want and the desire to have a signal at 15 and Route 2 in West Danville. I think the trouble with this project, we're on a fast track. We can't go through the right of way and permitting very fast and have a paving program. So I think if the town really desires, or the public really desires, to have a signal or an intersection project for 2 and 15, the best way to do that would probably be to interact with the RPC. And then the RPC, I think, knows our scoping and our asset management folks, and they can essentially program a project or put a project in the queue to be prioritized, and it could be a standalone signal project. As soon as you put a signal project in a paving job, it won't be paid for 15 years because you're dealing with right-of-way and permitting. So, and plus, then it kind of sandbags my ability to deliver this 16 million or 16-mile project, because I'm having to deal with property owner meetings and scoping an intersection project. It kind of has a different life form. So I think that would be probably the most appropriate way to maybe look at 2 and 15, is to interact with the RPC. RPC, I think, knows our process with asset management, and then it can get put on a list and prioritized throughout the entire state, and maybe someday it'll be a separate project.
What is RPC? Sorry.
Regional Planning Commission.
Regional Planning Commission. Thank you.
Can we be in touch with you or someone individually regarding not just the grade of how our driveway will reach Route 2 over there? I'm more concerned about the dip in the road that's in front of our home. And when
We live across from Molly's Pond. I don't think anything you talked about is going to happen to that section. I think you said after 2027.
Molly's Pond.
Yeah.
when resurfacing was done about maybe 7-8 years ago,
Right.
We lost field of vision. So when I go to turn in my driveway, I have to count to 3 to make sure
I
I've
guess
got
the question
nothing
is, are you doing anything?
coming up. So I'm just wondering if that's going to have another layer put on top of that. That would just be my concern.
Okay, yeah.
I believe that's the section that we're paving 1.5 inches. But I will be your contact,
Okay.
meaning we do all the driveways on the project by plan, get a 4-foot paved apron. But if there's a need to go back further to make that transition, I'm willing to
I'm not
increase.
concerned about the driveway. I'm concerned about
Oh, the road
my
itself.
safety, the road itself.
Right.
And I know that whole section, we have the farm that's down at the end also and own all that property all the way up. So I know there's a large project pending to actually have that whole corner moved and taken out of there. So I didn't know whether maybe that wasn't going to be touched at all. But my concern is if that section of road right in front of our home gets any higher with the blacktop, we won't see heading east, the south side of Route 2, which we do often because we're coming back from the farm down on Mac Mountain Road to our home, and you just can't see it all. And it's a dangerous enough corner, but when you lose sight of people coming this way, and you have to sit there counting 3 seconds, depending on how fast, and I'm guessing how fast they're going, which is usually 60, 70 miles an hour. I take my life in my hands to pull across into my driveway. And if you lift that road up a little higher, it's going to be a total guessing game of when do I cross over and pull in
We
my
used to see just about all the way to the bottom of the hill, but every
Right.
time you add pavement, then you cut off the vision below the bottom of the
We
hill.
can't see. And we have large equipment that oftentimes are bringing up from the farm with tractors and mowers and balers and things.
Okay.
And you can't whip in the driveway in 1 second with that thing.
I may be confused on like where you actually live.
Okay.
You meant,
If you come up from the Goodrich project,
yes,
you go past Carla Payne's place and she was talking about.
okay, where the truck lanes are that go up the hill.
Right,
Right.
and then
Okay,
then there's a turn off.
that's a
So you're on.
You're in the reclaim
You're on
section.
that contract
But
3.
then we go past that. We'll pass where there's supposed to be a large project being done through there.
Okay, now I know
So you're
exactly.
before West Shore Road, is that what it's called?
Oh, we're
Much
before West
that.
Yeah.
Shore.
Well, a mile from West Shore, the side of West Shore Drive.
Okay.
But you're in contract 3, the 2027 construction zone, it sounds like.
Right.
But,
So that, we're gonna take off a layer of pavement and put back the same depth.
so when is the major construction going to happen there?
Yeah, so that's the, so Bruce Martin is the project manager for that project.
I think so.
It's
27.
It's a different project, but right now it's targeted for 2027, as far as I know.
Probably another 5 years out of that. Okay.
It's
So
been
you're
around.
saying that if something's going to be,
What do you mean targeted? As in that's when it's going to be discussed or that's when it's going to be built?
That's when it's going to be built, 2027, as of right now. With money and budgets and permitting, I can't speak to that for that particular project, but when I looked at the schedule, it was 2027 is what they had in the system for that one. And I know it's been around a long time,
well,
but.
we've been told there are many things we've been told not to do because this project is happening and we've been there 40 years now, so.
Yeah. But for that area, we're just milling off 1.5 inches and putting back 1.5 inches. There's no,
Oh,
no
okay, so
lifting at
it's
all.
not going to be added on
Right,
top
that's why I
of
said
that.
I had the wrong area, but that
All right.
section is what he described in the beginning, is we're trying to give it some more life for the next 4 or 5 years. So we're gonna take it off, and that allows us to reshape it a little bit and get some profile back, and then we pave 1.5 inches, so, yeah.
Very thin, please.
I will stop and take a look, just so I can
Okay.
picture it
Because
in my head.
there's 2 entryways into the driveway. It's
Okay.
kind of a funny horseshoe, steep horseshoe on this side and low on this
I
side.
can
But
picture it now.
If I'm coming east, if I'm heading east on Route 2, and I go to pull into my driveway, I can't even see that slope down that hill.
Okay.
I can't, it's slight, but it's enough. I can't even see to the bottom part of my other driveway. So it's kind of like life and limb. And I don't dare go past that to make a sharp turn into the steep driveway because they're going too fast. So just to be able to have that vision, that field of vision and see.
Yeah, well, I wonder what Bruce Martin has planned for that segment, other project manager, because
They're gonna pull the whole corner out and go into our fields across the street.
so we'll make that condition better, you think?
Right, the corner
Yeah.
needs to be corrected.
Yeah.
It's
The road's actually going to be dropped 8 feet
8
there.
feet. Yeah.
Okay.
which will help with the field vision.
Yeah.
Thank
We
you.
have someone else online.
Yes. Paul Lesperance asked, will the road be elevated in front of 476 US Route 2 Cabot on Molly's Pond?
He's our neighbor.
Okay. And then his follow-up is, when will the bridge be replaced?
Yeah.
Part of this project?
I think, yeah, so if he's by that last that we were talking about, we're not gonna lift the grade at all. It's gonna be a mill and fill essentially, so no elevation change. And I believe there's a bridge or box culvert, or precast box culvert, which is included in that larger project over by West Shore Road.
Right, it's right on the edge.
So,
It'll be with that project.
so as of right now, 2027 is the best guess that I have. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask another one?
Yeah.
You talked about the park and ride, enlarging it. Have you changed the footprint of it? Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like?
The slide may help, but like Brandon said, they're like on the rail trail side of it, we are.
Oh, you're coming into that.
So you're gonna kind of abut the trail?
Yeah. you're gonna-
Well,
Yeah, I think this area right here, kind of at the southeast.
Yeah, the right
We're
line.
doing a little bit of widening on the bottom here just to get those stalls in.
yeah, we do have some details. I believe it's 3 to 5 feet of extension all the way around at the head of that parking. And then it blends back into the existing on the far right of the photo.
So it'll allow for more parking spaces?
Right, and as you can see, a lot of people park there like
Yeah.
is shown, but
Uncontrolled.
we're detailing that 90-degree access.
Because there's talk about, they're looking at the trailhead for this trail now, too, being in West Danville.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, so I'm sure that that's what people are gonna be parking for the trail. I mean, they
Right.
already do park for the trail.
Right.
So there'll be, since this is opened up now, there's gonna be a lot more people using that trail.
And on that diagram right across from Hastings, right in front of Hastings, there's a white. so-
Island.
So that will be, I see the kidney bean area.
The kidney bean is concrete curb with an island, so it'll be raised up.
Yeah.
The white that you see, that will be painted on the road
Okay,
surface.
so that's just.
Oh,
That's
oh.
painted.
It's called a gore
It's
area.
called gores.
Yeah.
Okay. So that'll just.
That'll go away in the wintertime, no one will see that. But hopefully
that's-
hopefully they'll see that kidney bean and not it.
Right, that's leading up to what Brandon said. We're trying to limit access to turn in there at a slower rate versus cutting through to kind
Yeah.
of beat the 3 cars in front of them.
Yes.
And the area where the existing larger grassed area, that's still going to be grassed, but it's going to be changed a little bit.
To widen the parking.
Is that, I see that green line
Yeah, so
shape there. Is that area going to be vegetated, or is it just going to be a stone?
I believe it's vegetated.
Right.
Being,
Yeah.
The last step will be some topsoil and we'll hydroseed it.
yeah, the graphics don't line up exactly, but my memory is saying that we're not doing anything with that.
Oh, you're not doing anything?
Not doing anything with it.
Yeah,
Okay.
just live down
Just the
here.
graphics aren't lining up.
Okay, I thought that was a relocation. Thank you.
In relation to the park and ride, Jenny Refuse Online asks, where will the tractor trailers be able to park?
I think that was in the report. I think we did consider that, and maybe Dale can speak to it a little bit online. I think that spot you see on the southeast part of the park and ride, kind of right here, southeast part. I think this was intended for larger vehicles.
Yes, Brendan, let me jump in here if I can. There is a little bit of extra room on the northern side as well, to the right of the screen. So beyond where the marked parking stalls are, is also room for larger vehicles.
Kind of.
That yellow area is going to be.
That's the berm, that's the median. footprint, right? That's what's there now currently, that yellow is the.
No, the yellow, the beginning of the yellow is the end of the curb, right there. We're extending it to there.
Right, so that's all gonna be.
So that'll be a raised and grassy
Raised.
thing or something?
So
Okay.
people can.
I have a business that's attached to Hastings Store, so I'm right across from there.
Okay.
I'm also very involved in the rail trail, and I know that there's 2 different meetings, another meeting Wednesday night for the rail trail. But my concern is and I know you're just doing resurfacing and parking, but have you talked to the rail trail people? Because as they are in the process, they're doing a study right now of where their trailhead is going to be. And one of the ideas is the park and ride. And it is very, very confusing and Jenny had just mentioned about the trailers, but you also have motorhomes that are there and the trucks, and at times, 4 or 5 of them. And people, are your parking, is it parallel? Is it, or it's perpendicular to the rail trail?
It's perpendicular.
Okay. So when the people come in with their bicycles and they back up to get the bikes off the back of the car, there's a thought, if that's the rail trail, because then the cars will be going through the park and ride. It's happened. I have a hatchback where I've been known when I'm parked on the other side where that kidney bean thing is, and I went back once to open my hatchback and a car came flying by and just missed me. And everybody has a story about how the cars, come flying through there. It has been better since they put tree planters there. But I guess my concern is, I understand, and thank you for a nice presentation, but I'm hoping that somehow you are communicating with the rail trail people are communicating with you.
Yeah, it sounds like the rail trail people are probably in like a scoping phase, probably.
Correct, and that will be completed in September.
Okay.
So, I know it's separate from your business, but I just feel like somebody's got to make sure they're talking to each other.
Yeah, I agree. I guess maybe I should probably, was it Jackie Casino? Does that ring a bell?
That's one person I've been in touch with, yes.
Okay.
She's the rail trail manager.
Okay, so maybe I have been in communication with her, I think during the earlier plan stages with this project, but I can loop back with her after this meeting and let her know.
That would be really
what our plans are.
Be very helpful.
Jenny had a follow-up online where she did want to let us know that the DMV does inspection and wait station in the park and ride.
Okay. In this area here, probably?
The hard part of this is we construct it, but we don't have a lot of control over who's using the facility. Meaning if you have an overnight trucker there, meaning we're not going to have an established parking area for, we have the footprint that we have. I think
right.
Maybe that'll help you with the footprint we have. We're trying to enhance it. I'm speaking for design right now. I'm more the field guy out there, but you're trying to enhance it, I guess, is the best way to say it. I don't think we have a lot of room to extend anything or build anything extra with the right-of-way of that rail trail. I realize it's our right-of-way, but I'm just saying, the overlapping.
Yeah, overnight truckers and truckers in general. That's another. I guess it's hard to design a park and ride that can encompass, every single forms of traffic. Especially in a paving job, obviously. But I'm interested to know what our park and ride program does when they're asked that question with overnight tractor trailers. But it's a good point. And I think the intent was to use this south or southeast section over here that's not striped for the tractor trailers.
Yeah, that's correct, Brandon. The right side of the screen, as you're looking at it, is for the larger vehicles. and the left side is for the bus loading, unloading.
Yeah, the bus is right here, right? Yep. And then the,
Anyone else have any questions? Are there any slides that you would want to see again?
We have no online questions at this point.
Okay. Give you guys a minute to think in case anything comes up. Okay, great. Well, that concludes the Marshfield Danville Resurfacing Project Public Information Meeting. You guys signed in and I have your emails through there, and I can see if you want to be on the, get the construction updates. But if you didn't put your email down, you can also come to me and I'll make sure I jot it down to add it to the list. And if you didn't get my contact information, you can come to me after the meeting and I'll make sure you get that. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for
Thank you very
coming.
much. Thank you.
Thank you for attending.
Very useful.